Hello everyone, this is David Sloane bringing you an update on what's been happening out at the Water Conservation Centre. So it's Monday morning, the 28th of July, and I logged on to see what's been going on. I was a little worried as to the corn. It's at a really critical stage, and so I wanted to see what's been going on. As some of you may know, I'm not actually able to go and visit the site in person. I'm doing this all remotely, so I wanted to give you a little heads up on the technology that we're using as well. So I've logged on to the Grow Guru system, and I can see the corn is actually growing on the west side of the west pivot, and red pin was a bit of a worry. So when opened up that graph, and what I could see, this is actually updated as of last night, and so this morning it was down in the red zone. But so clearly a bit of a worry, but I could see that there's these big stair steps. So those stair steps are actually watching the crop drink, and those stair steps are really massive. And so you can see that compared to earlier in the season, the stair steps where we've taken water out of the soil during the day and it rests at night, and we drink during the day and it rests at night, are getting larger and larger and larger. So that's a good thing. While the soil's drying out, what I could also see is that prior to the season, we managed to wet the soil right up. We got it very wet. And if I dig down and have a look at what's been going on at each individual layer, I can actually see that, and I'll spread these apart, that we were banking water all the way down to 48 inches. And so I can see this red line here is stair stepping at the 24-inch level and just starting to get going at 32. So I know there's water underneath this crop, and I know that the corn is going to be able to access that. But what we could see is that it's really pulling quite hard. And so if I go back to that summary graph, I can put on the growth stages, and I can see that we're in that critical pollination phase. We're between tassel and blister, where that corn is starting to pollinate all the grains, and that's why it's using so much water. But the good thing is I can see that there's a lot of water that's gone through that crop, and so I'm pretty relieved that we should have good pollination. And then with the magic of technology, if I just hit refresh and bring in the most recent data, I can actually see that the pivot literally crossed over that this morning. So here we are, and it's now wetting back up again. And so I can see that the pivot, well, before I got there, I actually went to pivot track, and I could look at pivot track on the west pivot, and I can see that the red line on there was facing almost north. So I knew that the pivot was going to cross over. So all I had to do was wait. It didn't take long, just an hour or two. And then we can see that the wetting up is occurring. The pivot is walking over there. It's putting on 1.5 inches. So I can see that that water has penetrated all the way to 2 feet. That red line is coming back up. And it'll be interesting to see just how much that wets back up again. So if I go all the way back to the summary, I can see, yes, we've put some water in the ground. Where do I expect this to finish? I think it's running at the same speed that the last irrigation event went on, so I could expect that to step up about the same as the last irrigation. So I expect it to come back to about here, and so that's a good thing. The water use is at its absolute peak right now, and so hopefully we might jag a storm as well, but hopefully we're going to get over that hump, and then we can, as the water use backs off, we should be fine. We've taken a lot of water out of the ground, but that's also because we're on a deficit irrigation regime. So from this point on, we'll get past that peak water use. Hopefully we've got really, really good pollination, and then it's all a case of growing out that ear. I've now pulled up an expanded view of the pivot track system, and so we can see that red line is just not quite at north, and so it's about to cross over into the forage sorghum that we have on the east side of that pivot. And so if we have a look at what's going on over there, we can actually see, if I go to the west pivot on the east side, we can see that the forage sorghum is now drier than it's ever been, but those stair steps are large and getting larger. I can go to the moisture graph, and we can see that the blue line is stepping down really well. So is the green line at 16 inches. And then we get to that red line. The roots are really just getting to that 2-foot mark as well. And so I can also see, if I expand these out, that we've had really good stored soil moisture, we've been able to push the water with some irrigation and rainfall events. They've gone, and this step up is actually capturing water. So water has been caught at that orange line, has been caught at the grey line, and that's at 32 and 40 inches. And then we get to a point here where we're now capturing water at 48 inches, and we can see that pink line has stepped up and stepped up. So I know that this is sitting on a really good profile of water, so I can also expect to be able to pull that out again. So this sorghum, it's a sterile male hybrid, or male sterile hybrid, and so it should be able to keep accessing moisture, growing its roots deeper and deeper. But really, in this situation where we are sharing water between the sorghum and the corn, that corn needs it, and so we're going to favor that. We'll probably put a fairly quick pass on the forage sorghum and just let it continue to access stored soil moisture while to get it back around so we can refill the corn again. On the east side, if I have a look at the forage sorghum on the east side of that pivot, because we're sharing water with cotton, the cotton didn't really need it early on. It was vegetative. We were trying to let it go, once again sitting on a full profile thanks to all the rain. So with this forage sorghum, we've actually been able to irrigate it a little more. So it looks a little different. We've actually put on 3 irrigations compared to 1 on the other pivot. So it's going to be really interesting once again to see how the water use pattern and sharing water between cotton and the sorghum versus corn and forage sorghum, how that basically pencils out in the end. If we just flip back and have a look at what's been going on with the cotton out there, the cotton is essentially, it's just using water. It's now flowering. Haven't got to peak bloom yet, but those stair steps should actually get larger and larger. But what we're able to do here is to keep a really good amount of moisture in the soil and just keep up with what that crop is using. So by sharing water between 2 crops that don't quite need as much as the corn, especially right now, we're able to look after both of those. Whereas over on that other circle on the west side where the corn is growing, it's water demand is very high. And so we can see the size of those stair steps, the amount of water that crop is drinking every day is pretty big. But hopefully we'll be able to replenish that and keep it going and have a really nice crop at the end. Also, don't forget, the Thursday, the 4th of September, we have a field day out here. So I encourage you guys to come along and partake. Not only can you see the sharing water between forage sorghum and either cotton or forage sorghum and corn, but we've also got a really cool hybrid trial looking at some drought tolerant hybrids where we're using full water and limited water and a couple of in between amounts, and that's on the drip field. We've got 6 different hybrids in there, 2 planting dates, 4 different irrigation regimes, and so you can come along and have a look and see how these drought tolerant genetics actually perform in a very limited water scenario. We're only putting on 12 inches of water total irrigation, and we've had some rain this year, and so that's definitely helped. But what can we achieve with very limited water using these drought tolerant lines? So encourage you all to come along and see what's going on out there. So catch you next time.